Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my studio. Now, today I'm broadcasting. Had a little difficulty getting started here this afternoon. My computer's acting up a little bit, but here I'm live again. And if you're signed in, then let me hear from you. I'm broadcasting live from my studio to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, and later on into Instagram. And I got my chat room on. Gloria, my wife Gloria, is in the studio with me today.
Hello, everyone.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast and also checking the chat room. If you have a comment or question during the broadcast, put it in the chat room and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, well, don't know what happened today. My computer went off, but I started up again, so you saw partials of it. And hopefully you're there on there watching what I'm going to do. If you have any...
I see you on Facebook. If anyone in LinkedIn or
YouTube.
I'm seeing you on YouTube. If anyone on Facebook or LinkedIn, if you'd let us know.
Okay. Gloria, put a little message on there saying what we are. If you put a message. Okay. All right. Okay. It should be live. I got about all four channels. So you might want to do a refresh and see if it comes on.
Okay.
Do a refresh.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Today I'm going to do a demonstration, and it's going to be I'm going to be talking about how I got started, and also this little plein air exercise. So let me take you over to my my overhead camera. So today, this is a subject matter which I have today. This is an old farmhouse, a firehouse. And you can see it's got several additions to it over the years. They've added buildings to it and so forth. So it's been modified quite a few times. But it's got some interesting shapes and so forth. So that was the subject matter. But you can see I'm going to simplify some of the shapes here. And what I did, and also the foreground is not very interesting here. So what I did was I went back about 25 or 30 feet. And I got this view here looking through the trees. And with this pathway up here to the foreground. So the foreground pathway, there's a fence line here, and I got some trees here in the middle ground, and I got the background, I got that firehouse. So that's going to be my subject matter today that I'm going to demonstrate the painting on. So this is plein air. I went out on a weekend and I did this, and let me show you some of my equipment here that I go out when I do plein air. Now I take my visual journal with me, which is a mixed media, but I use it for watercolor and for drawing and so forth. It measures 5.5 by 8 inches, 8 inches by 5.5 wide. What I do here, though, because of the size of the painting I want to do, what I do is I open up the sketchbook, and I get about 11 inches by 8 inches. So I got 11-inch surface by 8-inch surface here. So that's how I'm going to paint this scene on this particular on this firehouse scene. I'm going to use the open section here. Now what I do before I go there, let me show you some of my other equipment I have with me. Now when I go out and do a plein air or a sketch, I take my travel set with me, which includes the visual journal, and also I have my trusty palette in a bottle dot sprayer, which was sold exclusively on Everett's Watercolors. That's part of the travel set. And the travel set only has 3 colors in it, and plus I've augmented a few here. I got the lemon yellow, Pyrrole Red, and I have ultramarine blue. Those red, yellow, and blue. Then I have a little bit of burnt sienna down here at the bottom corner. Then I also have a little bit of Chinese white, and here I have Payne's gray, the white and black. Okay, so that's the only colors I have in my palette that I do when I go out and do a plein air or a quick sketch. Also, my brushes. This is a 1/2-inch silver brush, 1/2-inch natural hair. Silver brush, it's black velvet, and then I have a number 8 round black velvet round brush. And then today I also have a little rigger here. This is it's really an acrylic brush, but I use it because it's got stiff bristles on it, and so it gives me a lot of texture and so forth when I use that. So these 3 brushes is what I have when I go plein air. These 3 brushes here: a flat, a round, and and a fan brush, a small fan brush. Okay, let me put those aside for a second. Now the first thing I do when I saw the scene, what I do is I also have my sketchbook with me, which I carry with me everywhere I go. Initially I did a thumbnail sketch, and a thumbnail sketch just gives me a general plan of what I'm going to include in the painting, how large I'm going to make it, and what elements, the building itself, a couple trees, the fence line, and the pathway here in the front. So I did a simple, small, what I call a thumbnail sketch that measures about 3 inches by 3 by 4 inches, 3 inches long and about 4 inches wide. So that's a thumbnail sketch. So what I did now, I transferred that to my my sketch pad, and I started the exercise. I started my painting. So now I'm going to take you to a video that I had. What I did is on location, I videotaped this whole process. So I'm going to show you beginning to end the painting. Now I didn't. I kept it at full speed. I didn't slow it up or speed it up or whatever. I just left it at normal speed, and I'll talk along with the video as we go along. Okay, and that'll be recorded on the final video today. So let me introduce my demo. Okay, there it is. It's a plein air sketch. It's called Firehouse at Waterway. Okay, and that's the scene I showed you before. That's the scene I'm going to paint right there, what I'm looking at. And take me down to my setup. And I have an easel, and I put my design drawing on my little visual journal. And I just have an easel with the small palette I showed you, and there's the half-inch brush. And I'm going to start painting the pathway. And I'm going to use that Pyrrole Red. Now I put an extra photograph up the top left there so you can get an idea of the references I'm looking at. I'm looking at the pathway, and I'm using the Pyrrole Red paint on that half-inch flat brush. And I'm going to paint that pathway in. And I think that color is very interesting. It's a nice little contrast with the green grass and the green leaves, and also brightens up the painting. And it's also a nice, what I would say, lead in to the painting, because the pathway, and this is a man-made pathway, of course, but it's a red concrete pathway which they built here along the waterway, which is this is about 1.5 years old, I guess, this pathway. But it's a nice little setup. I really enjoyed this location here. It's really quiet out here. There's no noise. I hear the ducks in the air sometimes flying by, and I'll hear some boats in the water as they come through the bridge. So it's usually a very peaceful, very quiet location. So I don't have any interference with my painting out here. So it's early in the morning. It's approximately 7:30 now by the time I got set up here and got started. About 7:30 in the morning. And you can see here I'm painting, I'm using 2 pages of this visual journal from left side and right side. And I just paint right over top of the intersection there in the middle. And you can see there I'm just adding some more color, and I'll go back. I just have my little palette, and all I have is my 3 colors I'm using today, plus a little augmentation. I'm smoothing out the brush strokes a little bit on the pathway. Okay, now the only water supply I have is my dot spray bottle. That's all I use in the process. And there's my dot spray bottle. It's trademarked, palette in a bottle, dot spray, sold exclusively on Everett Watercolors. And that's the only water source I have for the whole painting. I just use that to wet my paints. And that's my water supply that I use to wet the brushes, and that's all I need. A little dot spray of water, and I'm ready to go. So now I've mixed up some green. Now I put some yellow and blue together. My lemon yellow plus ultramarine blue. I mixed up some green, and I'm painting in the grass around that pathway. And I'll leave that photograph up there now and then. You'll see what I'm painting. I'm painting the green grass along the edge of the pathway, back toward the horizon line, which is right next to that white building, the Firehouse. And I'm painting carefully around the fence line there. And there's also a tree there on the right, a small tree, which I'm going to paint around right now. And so I'm continuing on with that, really almost the horizon line there with the green grass along the base of the building, off to the left side of my visual journal. So putting my sketch on that visual journal doesn't really interfere with the painting that much. I get all the information I do. This sketch now is just collecting information about the location I'm at. I'm getting the colors. I'm practicing what brush strokes I'm using here, also, and also the brush I'm using. So the flat brush does a good job here of filling in the blanks. And I'm following my thumbnail sketch, which I transferred here to the visual journal. That thumbnail sketch just showed me what the basic elements that I wanted to capture today. The pathway, and the grass, of course, is there next to the pathway. So that's another element in the painting. So I think the first thing you do when you do a plein air study or a plein air painting is to try to simplify the subject matter. You don't want to paint too many things to make it too complicated. You want to kind of narrow it down to the basic information that you want to paint, the specific elements that you want to include, and to simplify that as much as possible. And that's what I've done in today's demonstration. I'm just going to simplify this scene into the basic elements that I find are interesting, and to make it into an interesting and to a future painting possibly. So this is a way to capture data along with the film, along with the photograph, along with my sketch. I'm painting around that tree also. There's a large tree on the left-hand side of the scene here. So I'm painting next to that also. And filling in between the fence line, the grass that I see. So I follow my initial sketch, but I'm also looking at what I'm painting to give me a good reference and also give me a good idea of how I'm going to paint that. But here I'm cleaning up the edges around that fence post on the left-hand side, putting the grass up around there, along the bottom of the fence post. Yeah, cleaning up a little bit of at the base of that tree. I'm bringing the grass up a little bit in there. So again, I'm looking at the scene, adding in some detail. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to finish up the grass over there. Again, I still got that green mixture. And I can vary that. I can add more color to that mixture as I go along. I'm also trying to match the greenery that I see, make it too dark or too light, just trying to match the values that I see. And I see the red pathway is really showing up there very nicely. I think that's, in a final painting I may not make it that bright, but I think for a practice sketch, it's good to get some color in there to really identify that item. In a final painting, you probably wouldn't have to be that bright of a color. But I think for this demonstration, it really gives it a nice wow factor. and it's a nice contrast. That red has a nice contrast with the green, complementary contrast. I try to use complementary colors as much as I can in all my paintings. That gives me more of a contrast when you use complementary colors, reds and greens and purples and yellows, etc. Okay, now I'm going to move to the rooftops. I'm using the Payne's gray, which is the black. So rather than try to mix a black, which I could, I just use the Payne's gray with a little bit of water on the brush. And I'm going to paint in the rooftops of that firehouse. Following my thumbnail sketch drawing and my drawing on the visual journal. I like the visual journal that opens up, so that way I can lay the paper flat and not have a bend or a hump in the middle. So the binder rings help me lay the paper flat so I can get a good flat surface to apply the paint. I noticed, as I said in the beginning, I left the video at normal speed because I wanted you to see, the brush strokes. Also, the amount of time it takes to paint something. When you're painting something like this, especially on an easel, on a vertical surface, with a loaded brush, you want to take your time. You don't want to rush it. You want to make your brush strokes as careful as you can, and go as slowly as you have to make sure you get accurate marks. Now here's some more of that roof line. There's quite a structure there. Different, I guess, different little rooms have been added to that basic firehouse from the very beginning. They've added little extensions here in the back and on the side. Now this is a lower roof to the back side, of a little extension on the back side. It's like a little shed or a little extension. Again, I'm trying to be careful to get my painting straight. When you're painting in a vertical position like this, you don't want the paint to run down. I have enough paint on the brush so that it's not too much water. You want to have just enough water in the brush so that you can transfer the paint to the paper. If you get your paint too wet, it'll start running down the paper, especially in a vertical position like this. So when you do a watercolor sketch like this, the amount of water in your brush is very important here. And I can control that by how much water I put on the palette when I pick up the paint. As I mentioned before, all I'm using is a spray bottle, so the paint's moist, and I thinned it out a little bit with a little bit of water, but it's still thick enough to work on a vertical structure like this. There's a little roof extension off to the right side of this building. Another little low rooftop. It's at a different angle, so just a very small section of the roof can be seen from this point. And I'll paint right across that tree right there for right now, because I can paint over top of that later on when I put the tree in. That's another thing. When you're painting, you can also think about what colors you're using. I try to go from light to dark. That way I put my light colors down first, and then as I put my dark colors down, I can paint over top of the lighter colors without worrying about destroying the structure of the painting. So I start with the lighter values first, which was the green, then add in the darkers on top of that. or next to that. There's another rooftop on the other side of this building. I said a lot of extensions to this old building. They've really has been remodeled and remodeled several times. Very interesting shape. I have a lot of fun drawing this and painting it also from different viewpoints. This happens to be a viewpoint today I picked to do this plein air study. I'm going to leave a little bit of white paper showing between the rooftops, just to define them a little bit. Again, this is a sketch, and in a real painting I might want to make it a different color, a different value. I may want to make more texture here or there, but for right now I just want to get the shapes down. I'm trying to identify the shapes and the angles, the sizes. So I'm going to leave just a little bit of white between those rooftops, just to keep them separated. And here's another shed on extension. I think this will be the last shed. So just to let you know, a heads up on this one. This is just a little small extension on the back end of that building, which comes out toward me. Yeah, maybe change. I think I'm changing paint here, changing the color. And what I did was I used this. I'm using the same color, but I added more water to it to draw the fence. I wanted the fence to be a light gray, so I took that black. And I used the black. I used the Payne's gray. I added a little water to it to make it a lighter value, to paint the gray of the fence posts. So same color, a little extra water added to it to make it lighter. And I'm staying with the colors that I see in the picture there, keeping the fence line lighter. Compared to the grass. Now this is something here. On the left side, it's an odd angle, so I'm using my left hand here. I'm right-handed, but here in this case, I'm using my left hand to get those two sections of the fence. So I just switch my hands, use the brush, and do the brush stroke. You might find that interesting there, of using both hands, left and right. I'm trying to point out some interesting things here as I'm painting. I caught that myself after I watched the video. I said, "Oh, I changed hands." I did it automatically without thinking, but when I saw the video, I said, "Oh, I'll point that out." Okay, now I'm going to paint in the windows. So there's a few windows on here, but I'm going to capture the main ones. So I'm add a little more paint to the mixture, a little darker value. Now I'm going to use that Payne's gray again to color in the window panes, because if you look at the picture, they're in shadow, because the inside of the building is no light on the inside, so it shows up as a dark shape. But I'm gonna paint the outline of the window, and I may show part of the window blank and part of the window black, just to have a variety. So there's a top window there on the left side of the building. There's another one there at the top. I can squeeze that in there, right next to that rings on the middle of the pad. But I can paint enough of it in there to indicate what it is. Okay. And there's a couple windows on the end of the building. I'll get those in the top structure there. So there's a top window right there in the middle of that right-hand side. There's a couple windows further down. One there and one to the right. Just want to capture the shape and position. Okay. Again, documenting a little bit of the painting and what I see. And there's a couple windows down here in the floor, in the first level, on the bottom floor here, on the ground, near the ground. There's a big window right here on this section. So I'll paint on the outline of the window. I'll get another window in. I'm going to squeeze a third window in there, right there where the rings of the visual journal is. Just indicate there's a third window there. Again, just capturing the shapes, capturing location. And there's a small window in this little shed here that's coming forward from the building. There's a little small window at the top there, underneath the rooftop. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to paint it. Now to give this building some dimension, I'm painting some shadows. Really wasn't that the sun really wasn't hitting it the way I wanted it to, but I've seen this before. That when the light is shining from left to right, you can see it on the ground here behind me or behind the easel. The right side of the building here will be in shadow a little bit because the sun is coming from the left side, and there'll be a shadow pattern on the opposite side of the building. And here here's the shadow on this little extension here of the building. And this little extension on the back here also has a shadow. So that the shadow pattern here now also gives us a little three dimension now of the building. It makes those sides stand out. Gives you more of a perspective of the building itself. And then there's one more shadow I'm putting in. This little extension here in the front here. Coming forward, there's a shadow there because the light's coming over the top of it from left to right. So when you're doing looking at paintings and looking at pictures and so forth, you want to have a good shadow pattern. A shadow pattern is very important to give a subject a dimension, give it interest. Now this little shed here on the left. It also has a cast shadow, so I'm going to put that in here. You don't see it in the picture up there because the sun wasn't bright enough yet. But a cast shadow across this little extension here from that little shed gives me a nice little shadow pattern. Now I'm adding a little more shadow color, make them a little darker. Adding a little more value to that shadow. Going from sunlight to shadow side. And this shadow needs to be a little bit darker on this side also, this little shed. Okay, now I'm going to forget the trees. In the middle ground, there was a large tree on the left side, so I'm going to use a little bit of my burnt sienna now. I have besides the three primary colors, I have burnt sienna, one of my favorite colors. I use that in a lot of mixtures, but burnt sienna here I'm going to use for the tree to put in the trunk, and paint it right on down to the fence line. And fill in the bottom of the tree between the fence railings. And I hope you like, I'm going through this slowly. I'm showing this full as normal speed so you get an appreciation for the brush strokes, how long it takes to paint a certain area, and it gives you a little feeling for what to expect when you do a small painting, and how much detail you really need to do to put a painting together. So I thought it was important to show not just the plein air experience, but also show you the techniques and show you the time factor. Overall, from beginning to end, I think this painting took me about 35-40 minutes total, from set up to set down. So when you do a plein air, I would recommend you do a small painting, like this is 8 inches by 11 inches, and give yourself at least 30 minutes, 45 minutes to do a sketch or a painting, or just to practice what you see. You may have time to do several paintings, not just one. This one here, you could probably make 2 or 3 paintings out of one scene. Take parts of the scene and do the trees, or you can do the fence line separately. You can do different parts of the building. So there's all kinds of ways to be a productive plein air experience. When you have a nice day with nice weather, you want to take advantage of as much as possible. You want to capture as much data and get as much experience with the atmosphere and with the element as possible. Because tomorrow is going to be a different day, and the weather, everything's going to be a little bit different. It won't be the same. I have a little darker color here for the edges. Put a little bit of Payne's gray next to that on the edge, just to show the edge of the tree. Give a little contrast with the building. Now I'm using a round brush, number 8 round brush now, to do the smaller strokes. A little more detail on the edges. So I use the brush that does the job. This is the smaller brush for a smaller detail. Now that smaller detail includes putting in the branches. So this round brush does a good job for the small detail. Now when I paint a tree, I pick some of the major limbs. I don't. You can, if you look at that photograph, there's probably 500 limbs and branches on that tree, and you don't want to paint them all. You want to paint the majority of ones. You want to paint the concept of where those branches are. You just want to capture the feeling of what the tree shape is. So you only need to put in a few branches or a few items there to tell the story. I put enough branches in to define the shape and the size of the tree. And you'll see, I'll fill it in later with leaves, and it'll cover a lot of this up anyway. So I paint the main structure and paint the main shape of the tree, the trunk and some of the main branches. Now the tree on the right is a little bit bigger, so it's going to have a little bit larger limbs, but also spread out a little bit more. So again, just a characteristic of that tree. It's got a little longer limbs. It reaches a little further. Again, so here I'm just picking out a few major limbs that I can see, and then I'm filling in the spaces with a shape and a characteristic of that tree. Now the foliage is going to be very simple. I'm going to take that fan brush, which I showed you in the beginning, and I'm going to take a mixture of greens, the ultramarine blue and the lemon yellow, and I fill up the fan brush. I don't put too much in. I start kind of a light pressure and just a light application. I just want to get the pattern started. So I do a light value just by tapping the brush. I'm going to fill in those areas, leaving lots of spaces. And you'll notice I'm not worrying about the sky. The sky was very light that day. It was slightly cloudy, a little bit overcast. So there wasn't much color in the sky. So I'm going to leave that pale as it is right now. And just concentrate on the shape of the building and also the foliage which goes across the top of the building and along the side. So the fan brush does a good job of foliage. It does get a nice little pattern there with the little dots and dashes. And now I'm picking up a little darker mix, a little darker green. By mixing a little bit of blue into that mix, I get a little darker value. And start filling in a little more of the spaces. The light value is still showing through, so that gives a little volume to that tree. You can see the dark and the lights together. And I can still see the building between the branches. Again, this is a little bit of practice with the fan brush. Again, I was practicing what brushes I was going to use to do different parts of the painting. And here now I'm going to put the same fan brush. Now I'm going down into the grass. Now I'm going to do little grass strokes. The fan brush does a great job with grass. It gives you the texture. You can see the little strokes there, up and down, vertical strokes that look like grass. So here's a good opportunity with a small fan brush. I say it's a little stiffer. It's like it's an old antique. I've had this thing for years, this old brush, but it's a stiff brush, little stiff bristle. It's an old acrylic brush, but it does the job. And it's a nice small. It goes with my kit very nicely. Fits into my travel kit very nicely. It comes in handy for textures and things like this. So filling in those little gaps, give a little feel for the grass around. There, I like it. There's a thumbs up. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up also. Yeah, it turned out real good. I'm really pleased with this. Now here's my setup. I'll give you a little backup view of my setup here in the field. Now I have a chair. There's a tripod. I keep a movie camera on. And then I just have a table. There's the easel. There's just a pad. I just have the paper and my pads on the table with my spray bottle, and I'm ready to go. And there's the view I was looking at from my position of what I painted. Firehouse at the Waterway. Well, I hope you like that. That was a good experience. In fact, when I was watching that video, I remember everything that happened there. And I think I said this before, that if you draw or paint something, it'll stay in your memory for a long time. And especially if you sit there for 20 or 30 minutes and do a sketch or a small painting, it's gonna be with you in memory for a long time. So that's really a good advice. Too many people take a snapshot or a photograph, and maybe a month later you won't remember what the photograph was all about. And that happened to me too, also. But I take photographs and I do drawings and I do paintings on location. The lesson today, what did we learn? Well, I pointed out a couple areas here. I think number one, I did a thumbnail sketch. I simplified the scene. You'll see from the original photograph there was a couple containers out there. There was some trees in the way, some small bushes and so forth, and I really didn't need those in my painting. So I simplified the scene. Number one. Then I made a thumbnail sketch on a small piece of paper, a little 3x4 sketch. And there I identified the elements I wanted to paint. Of course, the building was the number one priority, but then I had trees there, I had a fence line, and a pathway. So those were the key elements I had in my painting. And then I sat down and I did my painting plan was to do light to dark values, and I started out with the light value of the pathway, added the light value of the grass, then added the darker rooftops and trees, and then the foliage, and that completed the painting. Now I want to show you something else. I'll take you back to my overhead camera again. I'm going to show you my walk and sketch journal. After I come back from a scene like that, also what I do is I document it. I document it in my journal. And what I do here, and I'll show you up close. There's the painting I did. I showed you the video. That's the painting I accomplished on location. So that's a plein air sketch of the firehouse on the Waterway. And then of course I videotaped that. And here I have a little note to myself. I did a videotape and I created a July 7, 2024. So I made that tape back in the middle of July. Okay, and so you're just seeing it today for the first time. Now over here, I have that photograph I showed you in the beginning of the building, and I have the photograph of the setup I had with here's my thumbnail sketch down here. And then I have some information over here about what I did, a plein air, and I talk about the travel set I used, and I did the easel. I used my here's my sketch, and here's my walk and sketch pad that I take with me when I go walking, and then here's my plein air sketch with my visual journal. So those are the things I use. And this one here now is my kind of my repertoire and my history of what happened. And so I have a complete documentation of everything that happened on that particular view. Now, if I'm interested in doing a formal final painting on this, I have all the information I need to do it. I've got a video of it, I've got notes on it, I took several photographs and several pictures. So that's another lesson learned, that you should document your work and keep track of how you are, and I can always go back and look at this and maybe get some ideas of changing things or going back and doing a different view. So this is the advantage of having a journal or some logbook, keeping track of your painting and drawing experiences. And so this is my walk and sketch journal. This is number one. I'm already working on number two, so I'm already halfway through that one. So there's a lot of drawing, a lot of sketching to do ahead. So this is my again, you saw my sketchbook. You've seen my travel kit that I take. You've seen my brushes, my dot spray bottle, palette in a bottle. You've seen that. And so let me take you back to the main camera again. You're at the main camera. Okay. Any questions, Gloria?
No, we're good. Other than you've got a travel set that if they're interested in looking for a plein air kit.
Yeah. The plein air kit. Gloria made a comment there. Yes, in my supply page, I have a travel set in there set up. I have that has the palette, has the 3 tubes of paint, has the visual journal, and the 3 brushes, and it comes with a bottle, a spray bottle, just like I have on my plein air. Which you saw today. There's a travel kit in my supply page. Everett's Watercolors travel kit. Everett's Watercolors travel kit. That's what it's called. Okay, so what I'm going to do today. Okay, what I'm going to do today is sign off, and I'll see you next week. You all be careful and be safe. We're already in the middle of September already. The weather's getting nice outside, and if this is your first time you've seen this broadcast, give me a thumbs up and a like. I appreciate that. And I'm on next week at Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll be on tonight at 7:30 p.m. with Simply Drawing with Everett. And over the weekend, I also do on Sundays, I put out a small video called Anyone Can Draw with One Line Only. I do that on Sundays.
Once in a while, you have a short that pops up.
Yeah, I put shorts out there on my walk and sketch, so you'll see those also on the weekend. And they pop up, and you might be interested. They're little quickies, and I think you might enjoy those. So until then, you all stay safe again, and take care. And I'll see you on the next live video.